I want to challenge the thought that God is an angry God who punishes unrepentant sinners. Let us start with a simple question. What is sin? Now, many would say that it's breaking God's law. But before we focus on the law, we need to first understand the one who gave it. In 1 John 4:8, it tells us that God is love. Everything he does flows from love, including the principles he set in place to sustain life. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, I want you to think of God's law like the laws of nature, for instance. Take gravity, for example. We rely on it to live, and we're free to ignore it. But if we jump off a building, guess what? Gravity will act according to its design, and we suffer the natural consequences. The same applies to God's moral and spiritual laws. They aren't arbitrary rules designed to control us. They are the very framework of life itself. Now, you violate it, there will be natural consequences. Romans 6:3 says, and I quote, "The wages of sin is death." Now, this doesn't mean God imposes death as a punishment. It means that when we live out of harmony with his life-giving ways, that is his laws, we naturally experience suffering and we experience destruction and ultimately death. Now, God doesn't have to punish sin. Sin itself kills. So, then where does God's wrath then come in? You read that in the Bible quite often. Now, many believe it means he's angry and he wants to punish sinners. But in Romans chapter 1, verse 24, 26, and 28, it explains it very differently. See, Paul says, I quote, "Therefore God gave them over," unquote. Now, in other words, when people insist in rebellion, God, even though it hurts him, he lets them go. His wrath isn't about inflicting pain then. It is about the heartbreak of a father watching his children insist on taking a destructive path. Let me illustrate this with a simple example. Imagine you are taking your 2-year-old for a bike ride on the footpath. You set a clear rule: stay on the footpath. Now, don't go onto the road. Suddenly, your daughter, she rushes ahead, veering towards the street, chasing a cat, completely unaware of an oncoming truck. She's too far from you for you to physically stop her now. So what can you do? So you shout and you yell and even threaten to get her attention. Is that anger? Is that wrath? Well, no, it is desperate love trying to save her. But what if she refuses to listen, or she can't hear you? What choice do you have? She's too far away. You can't force her to obey. In this instance, you can only hold your breath and let her face the consequences of her decision. Now, I want you to now imagine your neighbor watching from her small window. She can only see you yelling at your child, screaming at her, threatening her, not the danger ahead. To this neighbor, you seem harsh, you seem angry, but this neighbor doesn't have the full picture. You see, this is how many misunderstand God's wrath. It's not uncontrolled rage. It's a sorrow of a loving father, letting go of those who refuse to listen. Ezekiel 38:11 says, and I quote, "I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live," unquote. You see, God isn't an angry deity like most people think, waiting to punish. No, he's not. He's working to save us instead. The real question is, will we listen? God's calling us back, offering healing and restoration through Jesus. The choice, therefore, is ours. Will we align with his life-giving ways, or will we insist on going our own way, separating ourselves from him, leading to destruction? The choice is yours. Amen.